Because knowledge is power. But if you treat it like, okay, I'm the only one that knows anything and I'm not going to share it with anyone, I worked for someone like that and I decided that's not going to be my approach. So for me in retail, it was real important to cross train. So all of my leaders, my entire management team, I wanted to make sure they were cross trained. You could fillet a fish. You know how to make garlic bread if you have to. You can write on someone's birthday cake if you need to. Whatever it was, you can cut up those New York steaks. If the meat crew's gone, you can go back and do that for them. And just to be able to learn each other's job. So it wasn't just, oh, that one person is gone. We can't help you. We can't serve you. So to me, that was real important. Just knowledge, education, knowledge is power. Share it. Don't keep it to yourself. I think that was probably a key learning for me in retail.
Welcome to GroceryPulse, powered by Innovar Marketing Agency, where innovation drives strategy and delivers real results in the grocery space. I'm George Goodwin, your host, a fourth-generation grocer and marketing expert. This podcast is your go-to toolkit for growing your business and staying ahead in the fiercely competitive grocery environment. Every episode, I bring in top executives, industry experts, and fellow grocers to share their battle-tested insights, breakthrough strategies, and actionable advice you could put to work right away. Let's hype you up. Did you know that people who listen to podcasts weekly are 45% more likely to achieve higher success and growth in their career? It's true. Constant learning pays off, so keep it up. So here's my ask. Hit subscribe right now. It may seem small, but it motivates me to keep raising the bar and bringing you the best possible content. Let's dive in and shape the future of grocery together. Welcome back to another episode of GroceryPulse. I'm super excited to be here with Lori. She's been in the industry for some time, and it's kind of cool. I've been going to NGA, Expo West, just different grocery shows, and for some reason you always run into similar faces, and I think there is no coincidence behind that, but she is pushing our industry forward in a very positive way, in a servant leadership way, and so it's exciting to highlight her story and kind of share or get to ask her questions about how she pushed the industry forward and how she has evolved through the industry. So Lori, thanks for joining this call. Especially being the president of the Illuminators and, bringing so much insight to all the different members on the organization and so many different roles you hold. I feel like you could always introduce someone, but I would love if there's anything that I'm missing that you feel the listeners could also appreciate from your experience. But yeah.
Sure. I've been in the industry a long time. Gosh, it's over 40 years now, which seems amazing because I just started last week. But I was able to start out, in the retail part of it, which I think is really helpful to really be well-rounded. So like most people in the food industry, that wasn't the path they chose. It just kind of presented itself, and
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to work at a brand new store. It was a Fred Meyer store up here in the Northwest. And again, just thought this is going to get me through college. And I graduated from college and realized, well, this is actually really a start of a great career. And that was many, many years ago. Very thankful to have that experience in the stores, though, and to understand what that looks like. Product coming in the back door, going out the front door, and everything in between. And so that was the start of my journey. From there, I've been in a few other places. When I was ready to raise some children, I just couldn't figure out how to do retail and family at the same time. And so hats off to those who figure that out. But I went to work for Super Value in Tacoma, and so category manager, promotion manager. I spent five winters in Minnesota, which again was a really great experience working for Damon at Super Value. I enjoyed that, and from there I ended up going to work for Multimeal, and then which was eventually acquired by Post. So learned all about the cereal business and calling on stores. I love selling and building relationships and getting to know people, and that's really kind of the interwoven thread of all of it. And so did that for a while, and there's been a lot of twists and turns and unexpected parts of my journey, but like everyone, you figure out how to embrace those and move
Yeah.
forward. So I had an opportunity to work for Rosie, which was eventually acquired by Instacart, but e-commerce world, which was something completely different and a little a stretch for me, but I just really enjoyed it and thankful for that opportunity to build out that part of my resume as well and build my relationships. And I'm selling eggs these days. I work for New Cal Foods. Again, it's a stretch. I mean, who thought that eggs could be so complicated and so complex and so critical? It's
Yeah.
such an important part of our diet and our grocery store trips. So I just very thankful for all my the parts and pieces of my journey and the what I've learned along the way, but really the people that I've met along the way.
That's awesome. I think it's so cool to hear, I think there's a lot of times people move into sales and don't have that foot on the ground experience within the retail experience. And I think when you talk about your career, it's so cool to see how high of a caliber you're in a position where you understand the logistics, the people relationship, and the every stage. And I think it's a beautiful thing, even when it's in sales, because you could relate to so many different persons in whatever that position may be. I think that's pretty cool. When I was thinking a little bit when you were talking about eggs, I was like, man, I mean, I bet you were going probably just dealing with a lot these past couple of years because everyone loves eggs, everyone's eating eggs, but during different crisis moments, I currently went to Texas and there was this, winter um, experience, and eggs were gone. Toilet paper was gone, and it almost felt like COVID, but it was not that bad of a winter, especially being from Reno, Nevada, and experiencing cold weather. But it's. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about handling, you know, eggs' importance in the grocery store. I mean, it's definitely one of the highest sold items. I think it's bananas, milk, eggs. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit from that background side.
The interesting part about that is when, last fall migration. So I never cared so much about bird migration as I do since I started selling eggs. Spring migration, fall migration, always looking overhead, millions of birds going north or south depending on the migration, and that's usually a really critical time. But
Oh,
the thing is when last fall was so tough and so challenging and so many and millions of birds were lost,
mm,
it almost did feel a little bit like COVID. And what I mean was the conversations that you're having with your retailers, and there's bad news to deliver. It's
yeah.
not going to be good. But
Mm,
we learned that during COVID. And what we learned during COVID was just to keep those lines of communication open. So even if it was, I'm calling you today, I have nothing to tell you, but I'm still here, my phone still works, and I'm not avoiding you. And I
mm,
can tell you that the retailers just really appreciated that. Even if it was bad news or no news, but you're keeping that line of communication open because hearing from some of them, they were getting like being ghosted and not getting anything and having any kind of communication. So I think the communication part was my biggest takeaway. So when we got to that point, even though it was terrible, it was kind of like this feels familiar. I know how to deal with this, and that
yeah.
was kind of key learning for me.
Wow. Yeah, I think sometimes it's like you. Yeah, I feel like as a smaller family-owned store, we were going directly to egg distributors and able to get some eggs and things like that. But yeah, I think communication, I think, is one of the biggest thing in any relationship, and it definitely doesn't feel to be any ghosting doesn't always feel that great. But
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help the situation. Even if you think, well, I have nothing to tell them. That's not the point. The point is that you still have a conversation with them as well.
yeah, every time I do these podcasts, I always pull these little nuggets for myself and I write them down, and it makes me look like, but I'm like, I think it's such a good point on communication. I mean, I think we don't really talk about how difficult it is to read people's brain. Like, unless they're explaining or talking, you really don't know their thoughts. Like, even in this interaction now, I could be thinking about so many different things, and so it's communication is so important in any crisis or even just over communicating when, the client is feeling a lot of stress or a lot of pressure. So I think that was a cool point.
And they remember. They remember who called them.
Mm,
They remember who talked to them. Because I remember even after going through COVID, years afterwards, they remembered that you made that phone call and that you had that communication with them.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it builds more trust and understanding, and then even that relationship in grocery. And I think there's always, especially in being in like the grocery tech, and when you were at Rosie, I felt like at NGA you would always see these new softwares coming out, but they sometimes didn't do so great, and it was because I feel like the grocery space is very relationship. From my experience, people want to see it tested in the store. They want to see it have some validation and proof. And so I think sometimes those startups needed more time or needed more development. But I think it was always cool to see, how strong some of these bonds are in the grocery space. So many would come to NGA and it was like their family vacation, or different expos, but it was like that they came to say hi to all their vendors, or they came to just see the other grocers, and they were making that business trip slash experience for their industry or for their business. Could you talk a little bit about relationships? I feel like you do really good. um, I need to learn from you, or we all do.
You have to show up, first of all. I mean, you have to show up and you have to show up. And I live in Washington. I just spent the last week in California. We had a rally in Northern California 2 days ago. Yesterday it was in SoCal. And, people say, "Where in California do you live?" And I say, "Seattle." Like, that's not in California. No,
Wow.
it's not. But thank you, Alaska Airlines. But it's showing up. And when you say you're going to show up, you show up. And it's kind of pushing yourself out there. And I'm actually kind of introverted, but it's getting out and meeting people and getting to know them and building that. And that's the only way you could do that. And which obviously was hard when we're all on Zoom, but to be able to get out there and get to know people and really get to know them as people and not just, hey, that's the vice president of such and such that I want to meet. But
Yeah.
it's building those relationships, and it just takes time. And the other thing is, a lot of these people who are VPs or presidents, I've been in the business a long time, they weren't VPs and presidents, when you start out. So it's building that foundation with them just throughout your career. And it's really kind of a thread that's woven throughout my entire career. I like people. I like people in the grocery industry that, they're a hardworking group and they care about each other.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Seattle. Yeah, because I've been spending a lot of time between Reno, SoCal, and Austin now, and I'm trying to launch a kombucha powder and all the different logistics of making sure your orders and everything. And I think it's impressive to see that you're showing up in all the different Illuminators events, and of course, your presence is probably the most wanted there. So it's awesome to see that you're dedicated to showing up. I think I need to put that on my note list. Show up, and I try.
Must be present to win, George.
But what was that?
Must be present to win.
Must be present to win. Wow. You might be having me with a whole note list at the end. Must be present to win. I like that. I think even one of my first I think it was last year when I joined the Illuminators, I think you said something about being present, and it kind of stuck with me. And it was, I think even for any relationship to be formed, you need to be there, and you need to make that effort. So I think that's an awesome point. What do you when you think about like your history in the industry and how it kind of has evolved? What do you feel like is a very strong moment in your early career that has affected you now? Was it a supervisor? Was it, just learning to communicate? Or, is there anything that kind of sticks to you from your earlier career to now and where you've gone?
That's a good question. I've had some great leaders that I worked with. I've had some terrible leaders that, but I think that you learn as much from them because it's kind of, oh, I'm not going to do it that way. When it's
Yeah.
my turn, I'm not going to keep information from everyone.
Mm.
And because knowledge is power. But if you treat it like, okay, I'm the only one that knows anything and I'm not going to share it with anyone, I just, I worked for someone like that and I decided that's not going to be my approach. If everyone here on my team can do my job for me, so for me in retail, it was real important to cross train. So all of my leaders, my entire management team, I wanted to make sure they were cross trained. You could fillet a fish. You know how to make garlic bread if you have to. You can write on someone's birthday cake if you need to.
Wow.
Whatever it was, you can cut up that, those New York steaks if the meat crew's gone. You can go back and do that for them.
Very
And
cool.
just to be able to learn each other's job so it wasn't just, oh, that one person is gone, we can't help you, we can't serve you. So to
Yeah.
me that was real important, just knowledge, education, how do we help each other out, and not just, okay, no, only Lori can do that, no one else. So i I never wanted that.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. Share it. Don't
Mhm.
keep it to yourself. I
Yeah.
think that was probably a key learning for me in retail,
Very cool.
so I didn't
Yeah.
get calls at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Yeah, knowledge is power. When you kind of see that now, when you think of like the, you know, component of relationships and transactions and trust, what are some of those experiences that now like communicating whenever there's a shortage, or if there's an over shortage of eggs, hey, can you guys push some more volume with eggs if I give you a better price? But when you think of like today, some of the obstacles you're conquering, or even in getting to every event, what is that like now?
There's two really important components of that. And even when I became an officer for the Illuminators, I said, I need to ask two people first. And one was Scott, and he was sitting right next to me, because your family has to buy in on what you're doing too. Because
Mm.
I have a
Wow.
dog and two cats, and you're going to be gone, and somebody has to help you take care of all of that.
Yeah.
But my boss was the other one. Your company has to buy in on this stuff too, because I've been traveling heavily for the Illuminators, which is a non-paying job. I have a paying job, but
Yeah.
it all ties in together. So I work for New Cal Foods. They sponsored a table at all four of our events. They were present. They were there. They were
Yeah.
engaged. And they believe in what I'm doing, and there's a ROI for what I'm doing too for my company. But
100%.
there's got to be that relationship. It can't just
Wow.
be, hey, I'm going to go off and do all these things. Please keep paying me. It's
Yeah.
it's got to work out for everyone, and I'm so thankful to have that.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because it is, you know, um, you got two sides. You got your family, and then you also have your employer, and then this component that adds a lot to your employer. But if they're on board, and they're willing to see the value that it comes with, because all these retailers need eggs, and so having those relationships, so that's really cool to hear. When I think there's one thing that I've noticed about different groups in the grocery space. There's some of these like keywords that start standing out, and you hear different individuals talk about them. But when you talk about, or when you hear the word servant leadership, what kind of comes to mind? I feel like going to the USC Food Industry Management program, it was just one of these words that really was kind of drilled into us, and understanding so much more than just ourselves. But I think as time goes on, um, sometimes I feel like we forget. Not that we don't want to be a servant leader, but sometimes it it takes 21 days to build a habit. It most of us are good people at heart, but like, what is the I don't know, what is a phrase that kind of helps you in servant leadership, or what comes to mind? And some of us comes easy. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Right? No, I was going to say it's a quote, and I honestly, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it's from, but the quote is, if serving others is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. And that's what I think of. And part of my spare time, I'm the past president of our Boy Scouts Council, which is now Scouting America here in the Northwest, and all about servant leadership. And going to camp, and my job that day is I'm cleaning the bathrooms. And I remember talking to one of the younger scouts, and he said, "I can't believe I'm cleaning the bathroom." And I said, "No, you're learning about servant leadership. Someone
Wow.
has to clean the bathroom. Today's our job, so let's make sure it looks great." So to me,
Yeah.
that's servant leadership. It's helping others without really an agenda to do something for yourself,
Mm.
because we know what happens when we give. We get what we give, but
Yeah.
that's not why you do it. You do it because that's in your heart. That actually has to be something that you feel. How can I help you? How can I help you today, George? What can I do for you? And
Yeah.
so, you show up and you help, and it always comes back to you. It
Wow.
always does.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's so beautiful. Really, like, some of the most, I don't know, I feel like there's different caliber individuals, and you really, I think there's also a phrase like, you remember how people make you feel. And
Absolutely.
so we don't always remember exactly it, but I think one of my first, like, working in the family business memories is my dad would clean the toilets in our family store, and um, he would make sure all his kids did this. And then my first job was taking all the trash out and being a janitor. And it was like, I think at some point, even your little middle schooler, you're like, well, I shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, to the kid, like, no, like, that's real leadership. Like, you can do almost any component, and really care about what you're doing, and build that character. So it's there's definitely a different ripple effect when that is expressed in leadership, and so it's always nice to hear that from leaders like you.
I learned it from my dad, and he served on the
Oh,
city council. He served in the school. He was the chairman of the school board and handed me my high school diploma when I graduated.
what?
I learned from him, but he would be in all these social clubs like the Lions clubs and these different things, and he would say, "Hey, George is going to take care of that." Like at the end of the event, cleaning up, George is going to take care of it. George has got it. And somebody finally asked him, "I don't think we have a George." He said, "Exactly." Because somebody always said somebody is going to come along and take care of it. Well, it was him. He was the one staying after, taking care of all those things. But if you're not a servant leader, you don't think about those things. Who is your George? Is there one? Is it you?
Before we jump back into the episode, I want to take a second to acknowledge our sponsor. This one is a little personal for me as someone who spent my life in the grocery industry and is passionate about helping others live their best life. I'm excited to share something I've been working on. It's called Kobu Kombucha powder without the vinegar bite. Kobu is a clean, instant kombucha powder designed for the modern life. Supporting gut health and hydration, just mix a stick into a 12-ounce water bottle and give it a quick shake, and you got yourself a refreshing kombucha drink in seconds. No glass bottle, no refrigeration, just simple convenient kombucha wherever you want it. Each serving has less than 25 calories or less than 3 grams of sugar and contains organic ingredients. We started with organic green tea brewed in Taiwan, fermented, shipped to US, where we add organic ingredients like chicory root, lemon juice to support gut health and hydration. We are focused on making flavors smooth and refreshing without the strong vinegar bite that can turn people off from traditional kombucha. Right now we offer 2 flavors, watermelon citrus and lemon ginger, both crisp, refreshing, and easy to enjoy, whether you're at home, work, or on the go. If you are someone who cares about wellness, gut health, and clean ingredients, I'd love for you to check it out. You can learn more in the description below and try it yourself at enjoykobu.com. Use the promo code podcast10 for 10% off. Thanks for supporting the show, and now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think maybe this episode's dedicated to our dads or something. But
I
yeah, I think
love
of a
that.
similar experience with my dad would always want to do the dishes after dinner. And it maybe was because he didn't cook, like he would try, but my mom did most of the cooking. And he would always be like, "Don't take my grace," or "Don't take my, this is my service for the family." And so it was like he was doing grocery, he was doing a software, big family, and I'm like, wow, I think we're blessed to have some of those impacts in our lives to impact
Yes.
us in that positive way for others as well, and try to be the best leaders that we can for others, to hopefully be that George, or be like our dad.
Like,
Not me specifically. Well,
it's funny that your name's George. That's
oh, okay, that was your dad's name, right? Okay, I was
no,
making
my
sure I
dad's
was.
name was Daryl, but it was always he'd always say George is going to take care of it. So
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. When you like from CPG to like platform to business development, what changes, or what are you kind of seeing in the grocery space?
So it's been very interesting. These last four rallies, normally we would do, the rallies were all about rallying people to go to the WFC convention. Well, the convention sold out in 30 days in November.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to rally anyone to go there. So it was really kind of reimagining these events. And there's like 200 people in four different venues that we went to. And, we started out with Todd Kameyer, president of Fred Meyer in the Northwest. We went over to Boise, and it was Michelle Larson from Albertsons. Then we were in NorCal on Wednesday, and it was Kelly Mullen and Carl Schroeder. And
Awesome.
then yesterday was Kendra Doyle. So all of these leaders who I just have just the immense amount of respect for, and just listening to them and listening to the challenges that they're dealing with and how they're dealing with it. But all the personal connections,
Yeah.
man, it's just, Carl saying, people go to the grocery store, they go there because they're buying flowers for a funeral, or they're celebrating a baby's birth or something like that. And listening to him, and then listening to Kendra say, I'm in the people business. The grocery
Wow.
business is like a side business of the people business.
Wow.
And so it's just interesting to get the perspective of all those leaders, what that looked like. I lost your original question. I just started talking away here.
I think this was even better. I think that is huge, like the different leaders in the space, though. Yeah, I remember he came and spoke to our class, and I think it was 2 years ago when I was there, and he like memorized all our names before coming, and that was just a phenomenal impression. And he gave us a little plaque, and one of the plaques was or in the plaque it was a triangle, and one of the main points he kept saying was like, walk your stores. Like, even though you're in a store director or whatever your position is, walk your stores, understand the experience of the
I love
customer.
that.
Yeah, and that sounds. I think that it resonates because we think sometimes we need to be doing bigger things, or I need to make sure X, Y, and Z. But sometimes it's like, yeah, that couple is walking in because someone passed in their family, and they're looking for something, for that family gathering. And are you going to be able to meet that need and make that experience for that family, so they really talk about you and want to have that grocery store experience? It's cool to hear how essential grocery stores are becoming to, everyone's days lives. I think even with e-commerce is coming in, but I do see, people need a human reaction, and there's a big shift, where we understand we can. I think there's so many things trying to gravitate to our attention, but there's also, we feel most fulfilled, I think, as human beings that interact with other human beings. Um, yeah.
That was a common thread through all the conversations, was between brick and mortar still being very, very relevant, and that fact that in so many ways we've become so disconnected. And like, I'm at the airport frequently, and every single person standing in any line is standing there staring at their phone. Nobody talks to them at
Yeah.
all. But that personal interaction, that human interaction, that Kendra says people wait in your line at the grocery store, Lori, because they want to go check out through you. But to be able to have those connections and conversations is still very, very important. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. And really, the more disconnected we get, the more important it actually is.
Wow. how should brands approach, I guess, when you think of brands and you kind of came from you have pretty cool variety of different positions from e-commerce to retail to now even selling. What how do you feel brands should approach retailers differently than they were, 10, 20 years ago? Um, Especially for some startups or for some new CPG products, they don't have that legacy or that relationship. Maybe how do you feel like they should approach those brands? Is it kind of showing up to everything, or yeah, kind of curious what your thoughts are there.
Good question. So I work with emerging brands. So I work with I'm on the Navigator Lighthouse Foundation board. We do the pitch slam for the CGA conference, and now we're starting a next on shelf event for WAFC. So it's fun to work with these brands, and I advise another brand as well. But you cannot be all things to all people. So you have to know your narrative. You've got to get your story down.
Wow.
You've got to literally get your elevator speech down, and to be able to, you don't know, you might be riding with a president on the elevator. You might have 3 floors to tell your story, but you have to have a story. I have to believe it. You have to believe it.
Mm,
And again, you can't be all things to all people. So figure out your lane, where you want to go, what you want to do. I work with a brand, and I love this man, but he wants to be everywhere and doing everything. And the truth is, if you try to do that, you're just going to be a mile wide and an inch deep. Whereas where can you really penetrate? Where can you really grow and then grow out from there? But
mm,
just don't try to be all things to all people. And I think more than ever, consumers are, they are asking a lot out of their products. They want them
yeah.
to do a lot more things for them. And, as Kendra was mentioning yesterday, they want it to provide value, and that might not just be the price. So it's not value if I don't pay very much for it, but I throw it away because it's terrible either. So understanding what the consumer is wanting, and almost working backwards from what they want to what you have, making sure you're connecting with the right people. But you're right, you have to figure out, which of those events do I go to, who do I want to connect with, and you can't be everywhere. So if you might not be able to afford to go to Expo West, but can you go? Where can you go? Who can you see? What can you do? And you have to be pretty deliberate about that part.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a really good insights. I think I'm in a similar position where it's like you want to tailor to everyone, but at the end of the day, it's like, what's your mission and what's your core values, and then kind of, yeah, work backwards a little bit sometimes, because you're
Exactly.
like, otherwise you're trying to do everything, and sometimes
Not good.
yeah, not good and quality, and then you feel drained, and I think it's funny because I was talking to another CPG founder, and he was like, I just need to find what I really enjoy, and go back to that, because that's how I got into this. And I think that is very true what you said on, where are like the motivation, or where does that come from? And I went to a recent, the state of Nevada actually got to send me and another founder to a summit, and it was like a purpose summit, and they really stress like feed the energy that is positive, or that you kind of fuel on, and then starve whatever is not, whatever's pulling from you. And it kind of was like a core little nugget that I took away, because I think it's not just any business, but even in life, like, feed the good relationships, and those that pull, hold back, because they're gonna take and they're gonna hurt. But yeah, I think that's, I don't know if, yeah, I think in some space that is a business approach could too. But yeah, thanks for saying that.
You have to surround yourself with the energy givers,
Uh-huh.
and you have to kind of ignore the energy takers, and they're out there. And I mean, if you see them on your phone, they call you, and you're thinking, do I have the energy to talk to this person? Because they're not giving me anything. It's going to be me giving them everything I have, and
Yeah.
that's the end of the conversation until they need something else. And you have to figure that out. You also have to build your own trusted board of advisors, and whatever that looks like. And those aren't the people that are just telling you what you need to hear or want to hear, but they're the ones that are really there for you, and stay there with you, and will tell you what you need to hear if you're not hearing it or seeing it. But it's people that are going to be lifting you up and there to support you. And that's essential.
Very cool. Yeah, I think a board of advisors is huge. At New Cal Foods, you kind of had growth in partnerships, Illuminators, your headlight president. You have quite, you're juggling a lot and you're executing very well. So keep it up. But
Yeah.
what's what does a good like retail supplier leader relationship look today when you think of bringing your best self and um, others that look up to you and kind of want to aspire, where they're juggling a lot and executing beyond a price or beyond an obstacle or problem solver. Does anything kind of come to mind?
I always think I can organize myself out of anything.
Mm,
So it was kind of like what you're saying. Everyone has the same amount of time per day. So how are you using it? What are you doing it? What's the most important and how can you be the most productive? How do you eliminate the clutter?
mm,
Continue to bring others along at the same time and not try to do it all yourself, but kind of grow people along the way too. But for me, it's the time management part. Forget trying to be balanced on everything, but just figure out are those pockets of time that I'm wasting that I could be spending more productively? What does that look like? How can I help others? How can I be more organized? How can
yeah.
I be more efficient? What's the priority? And sometimes that's the question, and
Mhm.
which can be a moving target, right? So I guess it's understanding what is the priority? What's the priority this week? In the egg business, our price changes. It can change every single day. It could change twice a day.
Wow.
What's the priority right now? Does it
Mm,
look different than it looked yesterday? But does everybody know that? And
mm,
just to make sure it goes back to communication too, really.
wow. Very cool. Yeah, it's funny that you say eggs prices change like once to twice a day. I mean, like I'm like I know it's such a commodity too, because I remember I had my mom bought some chickens one time and we were having eggs and she was like, each egg is like 45 cents. And I was like, wow, I didn't think of it like that. But it almost makes it like gold where it's like, are you watching the prices? What changed, what shifts? That's cool. When, as a president of the Illuminators, what would have you told your future self? Like, did you know you were gonna? Did you want to be a headlight? Did you want to be the president? Kind of like, what's some story that was kind of in your when you first signed up, or kind of curious what that was like to now, you're supporting all of us.
That's a good question. And, so this is the second organization where I've been on the service president, and I've never, for either one of them, it was never my intention to be president. And I think I'm kind of a reluctant leader, kind of well, if you need someone to do it, I can do it for you. But,
Wow.
in a mind, I'm always thinking there's probably someone out there that's even better than me that could do that. But
Mhm.
the kind of leaders I would rather work for the leader that isn't striving for that position of power, but more, how can I serve? How can I serve? What do you need? How can I help? That's the one I want, not the one this chasing a title, because I feel like they're doing it for different reasons.
Mm. Yeah.
So I've never chased a title. And even I going through the chairs for the Illuminators, I had my opportunity to become an officer and I got the call, but I was going to USC getting my master's degree. I had just a full stack of work. I had a lot of obligations and I, said I'd love to help if I can. Just I don't have a lot of bandwidth right now, which I'm not very good at saying no. So I'm surprised I did, but I did. And I served as an advisor for a year and then the opportunity came up the second time around because I knew as soon as I hung up the phone, I I just I just turned down that opportunity. And when you do and you think, yeah, that was the right thing to do though. But
Yeah.
it came around the second time and I was sure to after I got the yeses from my husband and my company, I was in. I said yes.
That's cool. Your board of some of your advisors. That's cool. That's cool. Um,
Totally.
what was do you have any like serving in one like what made you sign up for Illuminators? Was it kind of or how'd you get introduced to it?
So it was when I was working at Post, it was a person in my company who was one of our leaders, Mark Arrington, and he kind of drugged me along. And we'd go to these events and you'd see people like some companies would like sit in a corner all by themselves at the social hours. And he said, "Don't do that, Lori. You got to get out there." And he really pushed me, but he took me around and he introduced me to people so that now there were some familiar faces to me and I got to know people and I got to build those relationships. So I've done my best to do that for, people that I take there too. Is like, let's go. Have you met this person? Do you know this person? And that's how you get to build those relationships. But you kind of have to push yourself too, to do that and to get out there and to network and just to build those relationships. So I'm very thankful that he did that. Through the Illuminators, I've got to meet so many different presidents and executive leaders from companies, and to be able to, Kendra gave me a ride to the airport yesterday, which
Wow.
I'm kind of in awe because for me these are the rock stars of our industry, but we
Yeah.
kind of have just a really personal conversation and just this talk, and it was wonderful. But I would have never been exposed to that if it had not been for the Illuminators. So I'm very thankful for that.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to Grocery Pulse. 70% of you have not pushed subscribe. So if you could push subscribe, I promise I'll deliver more and more episodes of grocers, industry experts, CPG founders that are pushing our industry forward. It means a lot to me and my team and helps us hit different benchmarks for the year. So thank you again for listening to Grocery Pulse and enjoy this episode.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. And I think it is even kind of comes back to, like that servant leadership. Like, we're human. She said, what did she say? We're a people business. And I think in a people business, you interact with people. And whether it's small talk going to the airport or even that trip, I mean, that's so cool to hear. Such a high caliber individual has that mentality. I love that. What excites you most about the Illuminators, or I guess even you would want, you know, people to know? I guess whether it's yeah, what excites you? Obviously, maybe there's the events, WFC. But yeah, what would you kind of next generation, people joining, people currently in? Yeah, I'm curious what you would kind of leave with them.
Hey, definitely the next generation, George. So, I mean, it's kind of a bummer you see, like the Carl Schroeders, the people that have been around my entire career.
Mm.
It's changing of the guard time, and so it's great that Carl did his 49 years and he's done, and he's wonderful, and it was great to spend time with him. But to see our leaders, our Kevin Currys, and they're retiring.
Yeah.
But then you see the next gen coming up, and that's really, great to see. And I want to make sure that, again, bringing those people along, making sure they know who's who, and identifying that top talent and nurturing them and giving them the opportunity, for growth too, and to continue to move on.
Yeah.
That fills my cup. I love that.
That's awesome. Very cool. Man, Lori, this has been awesome. I feel like I don't know. I always learn so much, but it's so cool to be. I feel like in the grocery space with leaders like you. I've been doing this thing. It's kind of like a fire round. It's just quick little questions, but you could always answer yes, no, or kind of a quick little snippet. But what's one leadership trait you never comprise on?
Integrity.
Integrity.
Your reputation's all you have. If you lose that, it's gone. It's gone. So tell the truth. Do what you say you're going to do.
Wow.
No compromise on that.
I love that. Best advice you've received early on in your career?
Take the high road. I sent an email that I meant to send to one person and I sent it to another, and it was just snarky. But she got back to me and she said, "I don't know how you meant that, Lori, but I don't think you meant to send it to me. And I would just suggest you take the high road." And I never forgot that. And I don't BCC anyone unless it's like 40 names of people, and I just don't want everyone to get a reply all from 40 people. So that's probably my best advice. Take the high road and don't BCC unless you're doing it because it's a big group.
I like that. One thing every young grocer or CPG founder or anyone in the industry um, should do in their first 5 years? This is a hard question.
Wow.
um,
Well, it's kind of what we talked about in cleaning the
yeah,
bathrooms, now, right? Be humble,
mm,
and there shouldn't be any job above you. Whatever that role is that you're given, whatever you're doing, do it the
yeah,
very best that you can. Be the best at that role. So instead of really, gosh, I can't wait to get into this role, this next one, master what you're doing. Learn
yeah,
that. Be the best at it. Be recognized for what you're doing and not just trying to do something else because you think this one is below you.
mm,
Do it. Do a great job at it.
yeah. No, that's great. And then I guess I've always asked this question, and it's kind of just something that I used to cringe every time I asked this question. But then as I've like now going into podcasting, and we're already in over 20 plus episodes and been doing this for about a year and a half, 2 years now, I've started to fall a little bit more into this question. But what kind of makes you like at the end of the day? What kind of just sets you and makes you happy inside? Doesn't always have to be about work. It could just be, anything. I'll give you. I've given my example many times in episodes, but it's just like having a beverage, whether it's tea, coffee, a nice view, Kobu Kabuchi, I forgot to mention, and just like a sunset or nature. But yeah, I'm curious, what kind of makes you feel grounded or kind of puts a smile inwardly for you?
Probably walking my dog.
Uh, what,
There's a really nice nature path behind our house. It's the highlight of his day. I know it is. And it just gives me an opportunity to kind of break away from everything, put my phone in my pocket, and just enjoy being outside. And he doesn't care if it's raining, snowing, whatever, we're going. But just to have that opportunity, just to really, during the day, half an hour, 25 minutes, whatever, just to disconnect and step back and then step back in, and it feels kind of refreshing. And I'm grateful for everything I have and the people that I've met along the way, and I feel like I've been really fortunate, so I no complaints here.
Very cool. I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go on a walk pretty soon, I think, after that. But Laura, this has been awesome. I mean, this episode really is a reminder to all of us about, we're still in a people's business and always will be. And I think it's beautiful to build those relationships and have those leaders in our space. And we really get to even talking to you and you taking the time means a lot to me. So I wanted to say thank you. I mean, we've covered a lot. So we've covered your career from, retail and the importance of having that experience, and even from tech to, selling one of the commodities that is almost valued like gold. It's food, but it's eggs. And then I think even sharing your leadership roles in different organizations and some of those key points that you hold on to, even integrity, it stuck out to me even in speaking to you about everything. So it means a lot. I have a few cool little nuggets you left me with. So must be present, cross train, look into your advisors. I got too many and my handwriting is all over. But Laura, this has been good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on this week's episode. If you found value here, rate, review, and hit that subscribe button. That small act helps us grow this show and fuels me to keep delivering insights that matter. Stay connected by joining our LinkedIn group for even more grocery insights. And if you have thoughts, questions, or ideas, reach out to me directly on my LinkedIn, Instagram. I'd love to hear them. Remember, the best grocers are always learning. Stay curious, stay bold, and keep pushing to innovate.